live next to a park now, so
It's okay. It's okay. Parks are good. Hi, everyone. Okay, so welcome to BookCult. We started BookCult early before I hit the live button. So we're going to do the thing. I am nasal as shit today because my allergies are the worst, but I did not want... Yes, that's the book. But I did not want to cancel because I think this is too juicy. It's too juicy. This book is too juicy. It have a kind of Trini level bacchanal happening in this book.
Listen,
right?
Listen.
I think we slipped from last week.
Star-Crossed Sisters of Tobago.
Yeah, it would have been accurate.
Star-Crossed Sisters of Tamana, and it gonna make sense.
I think our discussion from last week is just gonna like slide into this week because it's kind of the similar thing: family dynamics, keeping secrets.
Okay, so before we go any further, though, Star-Crossed Sisters of Tuscany.
Yeah, me read
is the book that we are reading or that we have read by Laurie Nelson Spielman. I'm going to read in my very nasal ass voice.
Actually,
you sound lovely.
That's your voice. Let me read. I pulled it up.
Yes, do it for me. Thank you. I appreciate you.
The Star-Crossed Sisters of Tuscany by Laurie Nelson Spielman. A trio of second-born daughters set out to break the family curse that says they'll never find love on a whirlwind journey through the lush Italian countryside by New York Times bestseller Laurie Nelson Spielman, author of The Life List. Since the day Filomena Fontana cast a curse upon her sister more than 200 years ago, not one second-born Fontana daughter has found lasting love. Some, like second-born Emilia, is the happily single baker at her father's Brooklyn deli. Some, like second-born Emilia, the happily single baker at her grandfather's Brooklyn deli, claim it's an odd coincidence. Others, like her sexy, desperate for love cousin, insist it's a true hex. But both are bewildered when their great-aunt calls with an astounding proposition. If they accompany her to the homeland of Italy, Aunt Poppy vows she will meet the love of her life on the steps of the Ravello Cathedral on her 80th birthday and break the Fontana Second-Daughter Curse once and for all. Against
are you okay?
What happened?
Keep going.
What happened?
She feels.
Okay. Against the backdrop of wandering Venetian canals, rolling Tuscan fields, and enchanting Amalfi Coast villagers, romance blooms, destinies are found, and family secrets are unearthed. Secrets that could threaten the family far more than a centuries-old curse.
It's a good blurb, I will say.
Y'all, actually, fuck talking like the white people them. Olia? Olia.
Oh, that was hot.
Nah, I find this book is a bacchanalist kind of thing though. I don't even. You picked this, didn't you, Brie?
Yeah, it's mine.
Let's start with you. You tell me your thoughts, friend.
I will. So I didn't know what to expect with this book. I got it. So I subscribe to the Book of the Month Club. So I just choose like one of 6 books every month. And so this was the one I chose several months ago. And when we asked for books to put on the list, I was like, oh, let me see what's on my shelf. And this was one of them. And oh my gosh, was I surprised at how enjoyable this was. So enjoyable. At first, and I'm sure we'll get into this, I think I was infuriated in the beginning with the family dynamics in the beginning. But then as people start to come into their own and secrets start to unfold, and at first I was like, I'm going to be able to predict this. No big deal. No, the secret unfolds, and then it unfolds again, and then it unfolds again. And then it like kicks you in the gut because it's tragic, but it's happy. So I'll tell you one thing. This book gave me what Till the Well Runs Dry did not give me.
It's so true. I was thinking about that while reading it. You know, I was like,
because this is safe. It's
just
like
as much bacchanal, but
because it's families running around.
Satisfied.
Yeah, families running around, secrets, tragedy, love, like all of that mixed into one, like real heart-wrenching shit. But then at the end, there's a resolution, and it's a good resolution, and we're happy, and So yeah, I'm glad this turned out to be a great book for us to discuss. I can't wait what we're going to discuss, but I enjoyed it. I would recommend it because I think it's a fun journey of sisterhood and self-identity and learning to take space and have a voice and know what you want and trust your own intuition, not what everybody else wants you to be. So that's my thing. And Aunt Poppy's wonderful and she's my favorite and I love her.
Yeah, and Rosa, Rosa. God.
We'll talk.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about those problems.
We'll talk about that.
I feel like we saw in all of Poppy's flashbacks, you know, where she's like, oh, about this loving, this wonderful sister who loved her so much. Like all of us who already know what Rosa turned out to be, we're looking at those flashbacks like, but I could see the manipulation happening here, you know?
The grooming.
Cool. Okay, who wants to go next? Because I think I need to say as little as possible because my nose wants to explode at any second. Sai, you've not been able to be present for a while. I would love for you to just let go on read all your thoughts.
I'm back, guys. I'm back and not throwing up anymore, thank God. This book was everything. So I did the entire thing on audiobook because I just it was just easier that way.
We don't gatekeep reading over here. We don't gatekeep.
But it was so good. So I'm doing it. I'm listening to it on the subway, and I get to like halfway through when she's going out with what's his name in Tuscany.
Gabrielle.
And I'm like making faces on the subway. I scream, I gasp, and people look at me like, "What is happening?" I was so involved in the book. Not to tell you how like involved you get in the story, that you're just with the characters every step of the way. I agree, like it's definitely a complete journey. It takes you on a full spectrum of emotions, but I really enjoyed the bits of sort of self-reflection and empowerment and reclaiming of story. And there's a line, and I wish I had a text like highlighted where they mention it a couple of times where they talk about you're so eager to prove. When someone says something about you, you're eager to prove them right. Good or bad, or something like that, something along those lines of like people speaking over your life or even things that you believe about yourself. And it just sort of really challenges those ideas of what we believe and how much power that has and how it can really control the course of our lives, whether intentionally or unintentionally, how sometimes literally the power of words and how sometimes a offhand comment or a thought that you hold, a belief that you hold so dear can really make or break your entire existence. That was really like just, I think my week has been a lot of things around that. And so it being in the book was also just a really beautiful second view of those things. But it's a great story. I was in my feels for the last 4 days. Just like the love and the romance and the heartbreak and the passion and desire was just everything. Also, I now want to go to Italy even more. Like I knew I wanted to before, and now I'm just like, I guess I'm going next year.
We could go on this stuff.
We could.
We're all going. Let's all go.
I was gonna say, let's just plan this now together. Like when we hang up after book club, we'll just do a little bit of logistics.
I'm accepting donations. Right, I have a
right. Cool. Talia, you next.
So I've been going through a lot this week, and so I think that is why I found this book really hard to get into at first. And then it's been bothering me. So I woke up this morning, I started the book from fresh. And basically just fuck this book because there were things that happened in this book that were very, very, very triggering to me, right? The way that Nonna, for example, would treat in the bakery, like, oh, I must meet the person that makes these wonderful cannolis.
Like Cinderella. It's like, get back in there.
As in, no, she didn't even get the opportunity to be told get back in there. And it had been happening for like over a year by the time the book opened, right? And I was like, ugh, one of these, this glorified. And I had certain like expectations when I started over the book. I had a couple like, okay, well, I remember this and it's now making sense. But like I said, that part of it was like a bias then because of whatever else I was going through, because I had a really hard week. And it's like, and then, you know, she talks about the scar. And I have a scar, right? And I know how like certain family members would talk to me specifically when boys were around, or they'd speak to me specifically when I would have friends over, right? And it would always be in this very derogatory manner. It would literally be like, this person is there waiting for the opportunity to put me down, right? And like that, like none of me was very, very triggering, extremely triggering, because these are things that I think that I have resolved. And no, I haven't really resolved it. I'm like, I just don't have to live with you now. I'm separated by water. I don't have to deal with this now, you know? And yeah. So, but to say that the way it was resolved, the way the person resolved it, the main characters resolved it, I loved that for them. I did not agree with a lot of their decisions, and I think it was because I am projecting. Right? I am projecting. But the very best of reasons, man, fuck this book, boy. Seriously.
I don't empathize with her at all. With Rosa?
With Rosa?
I don't empathize with her at all.
Because Rosa is a psychopath.
Manipulator. She couldn't get over
She's
her own
a
infertility.
psychopath.
Like
right, but
textbook abuser.
Okay, go ahead, Ree.
Oh no, I was just agreeing with Kiera. I was like, yeah, an abuser.
Okay,
and
manipulative. But what side? Let's hear the possible defense versus absolute lunatic.
So I am not defending her behavior. I abhor her behavior, right? I think all of the choices that she made were awful. But I think I can understand where those choices came from, right? And thinking about some of the trauma and pressures of, she is a woman who has been told that her only sort of her pride and glory is her ability to marry, right? And she's also responsible sort of for this family, because while she's leaving to create a better life for herself, she's also leaving to be able to create a better life for the people that she's leaving. And she's leaving to meet this man who she clearly loves undyingly, but doesn't feel that that's reciprocated. And so she's also dealing with feelings of inferiority, less than, neglect.
He was marrying her. He was marrying her uterus. He wasn't marrying her.
Right. Exactly. And so how many times has this woman, well, at that time, young woman, girl, been objectified and only seen as her value attached to someone else, instead of her value as a person? And so being challenged with, and it even mentioned in the book, we're not sure that this was her first miscarriage, right? The thing that she had attached her sort of salvation to in rekindling this flame of love and marriage and this relationship she's moving to a new world in, even that now is threatened. And I don't agree with any of the choices that she's made, but someone in that much trauma and distress and turmoil is not thinking rationally, is not making rational decisions, isn't making choices that are healthy for themselves or anyone else. So she needs counsel.
I get it, but I disagree. Like, I get where you're coming from, and I do think that you have. I think that those points make sense. Like, I get that. But Rosa was not like this as an adult. Rosa was always like this. That's the first thing. The second thing is all of those things that Rosa was afraid of experiencing herself, she decided it was okay for her sister, who she claimed to love, to experience those same things. And that is why.
Because the sister was a second born. She justified it with the second born curse. She's
exactly.
Like, she's a second born, it's okay.
So think about how much. So even in the book, they kind of address that she didn't want to acknowledge that the curse wasn't really a curse because it allowed her to justify all the things she put her sister through. But think about the psychological effects of literally years and years and years of being told that the second born actually has no value and has no hope for happiness or love. It's again that idea of like this book has so much wrapped up in how detrimental our beliefs are and how desperately we cling to them in order to survive, essentially.
Yeah. No,
And so like she's at fault and she needed to do the work and get better and heal. But at the same time, there's a little bit that's circumstantial that leads her to that path. Go ahead, Talia.
No, like I have a confession to make. Like I didn't want to be here because I know I was not going to have any good behavior whatsoever. And Kaya said, I need you. Go right ahead.
No,
so I have permission to be a cunt.
Do it.
Make my good side. Right. So Rosa is a classic narcissist. It's all about poor Rosa and all about what poor Rosa wanted. Who wanted to go become a tour guide at the museum? Until she realized, oh, I'm going to have to put in work that I never put in before. She was used to washing and ironing and cooking. And she was used to that, right? And she's like, I really want to learn nothing. You do it for me now. Because you don't have value. She never asked,
hi, Shay.
Hi, sorry I'm late.
It's okay.
Oh, you walked into the fire.
Yeah, the bacchanal don't start. Go, Talia.
Just to paraphrase my thoughts on this book, fuck this book in all the best ways. It is very personally triggering for me. And I'm going to explain, well, not explain, but I'm going to get into it, right? So there was opportunity for Rosa. There's lots of opportunity for Rosa. She didn't want to study. Her sister, in trying to help her study, ended up doing all of the work. And she said, here, look my name tag. Go. And leave me, let me do what I'm comfortable with. I want what I want as long as I don't have to step out of my comfort zone. My comfort zone, get a man, cook, clean, wash for him, give him some charan, and I good day with my life. She wouldn't even read a pamphlet. You know what I mean?
But how much of that is attached? And I agree. Let me just be very clear. I agree. I am just analyzing how much of that is, or I'm interested in analyzing how much of that is sort of innate, born, she is self-centered, and how much of that is the community that she grew up in telling her that she is the most important thing in the world, and these are her roles, and so she lives that out.
I'm going to say,
right?
I'm a very self-centered person, and I can tell you, as long as it challenges me, as long as I have to put in work that I do not want, if I want to do the task, it will get done because I know that it's going to bring me greater glory within, I'm going to be better appreciated within the group, etc. Right? I'm a self-centered person. I'm speaking from personal, experience. Source, my damn self. I'm sorry, let me repeat that. Source, my favorite topic, my goddamn self. Okay? Right? And the thing is, Rosa, for me, that was like a survival thing. Because if I don't think about myself, nobody would have. So I had to do the mental work. And I would like to be thought of. So I did that thinking of myself for myself. Rosa was the favored child. So she didn't need to do it. She did it because she wanted to. Right? There's literally nothing stopping. Rosa was literate.
I don't think saying she wanted to out of a spiteful place is as accurate as is the whole truth, because if you are growing up in a space where everyone is telling you that you are the bee's knees, your shit is ice cream, the floor you walk on, you must kiss it. If everyone is telling you that and no one is contradicting that, and there is no voice of reason in the background of, oh, maybe care about other people, that's useful too.
I would have agreed.
Hold on.
I would have agreed with you, but again, I said this once and I'll say it again. She successfully groomed 4 generations to accept her. Right? They did not
as the matriarch. Yeah, I'm the queen.
Saw this wonderful sacrificial person. And I'm speaking from my personal experiences, my very triggering experiences here. Right? they groom the people around them to see their sacrifices,
Exactly.
right? And as soon as something that is necessary for you comes up, it's all about them. It's all about them,
and
right?
everybody around them takes that same picks up
Cue.
that same song. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do want, before we keep diving, I want us to just pause for a second to get Shayna's thoughts, because we already had the chance to kind of give our summary thoughts. Shay, your turn before we jump back.
Oh man. So I did a thing. I actually read this 2 weeks ago. So it's been a little while, so I may kind of forget some things, but I remember I started this and was kind of, like, was like, am I really gonna like this? I don't know. And then what got me was the curiosity of Poppy, and I was like, where is this going? And as soon as the book hooked me onto that, I guess, mystery. I mean, I figured it out basically from the get-go, but I just needed to know if I was right. Okay.
Same.
Yeah. So I went.
Wow, was I the only one surprised? I totally was surprised.
I wasn't. I saw that coming from like a mile away.
Yeah,
but,
like you see it coming from the beginning, and then the first person who says that you has like the one in the restaurant, it's like, oh, you're gorgeous like a grandmother. I was like, I knew it.
Yeah.
And then I just kept reading. So.
Yeah. No. I knew it as soon as they made the comment about like how Poppy like stole her as like a child, and I was like,
exactly.
Yeah. No.
No, but that was after.
Was that after? I don't know.
No, that was before.
No, that was
before. It was before.
That was Rose told Emilia that Poppy tried to steal her mom to prevent her from...
You're right. That was before. That was before.
So
I don't know what it was that made me think that from before. I think it was the phone call with Poppy. There was something in the phone call with Poppy, and I was like, that's what this is about.
Wow.
And then they said that, and I was like, okay. And then they was like, oh, you're beautiful like your grandmother. And I was like, ha!
I feel so gullible now. I was taken for a ride. Because when they said she took the kid, I was like, is she schizophrenic? Is she like, I was like going to mental health.
I'm like, that's because it's her kid. Anyway.
No, I didn't think. Go ahead. Go ahead, Shayna.
Sorry. So I'll hurry up.
Take your time.
No, take your time.
We can get back to it. I'm sorry. I was late.
You're fine.
So where was I? Oh shit. Okay. So basically, like I like as soon as I got hooked onto it and was trying to figure out, am I right? Like am I right? And then I just had to finish it. So I actually like finished this book in like 4 hours. Which is like, that's like the first time I've done that in a while, where I was just like hardcore dedicated, like I need to finish this now because I need to figure out, am I right or not? And for a while there, I got a little bit scared because they didn't say it till like the very, very like nitty gritty end. And I was just like, God, am I wrong? And then I was like, no shit, I'm right. Yeah. Anyways. So, besides all of that, I think for me, I think what this book did really, really well was it kind of got at that core of, not just like immigrant families, but like families with a deep rooted culture, right? And the intricacies and the difficulty of being youth and trying to operate within those very strict boundaries of families with such a strong like cultural, I guess, background or matriarchy or patriarchy, right? So I saw a lot of details in this story that I thought the author did a really good job of capturing, just kind of how difficult it is to operate as a person inside of a family structure like that, where you do everything that is for the family, with the family, all the time, regardless of what effects it has on you as a person or in your personal life. So I thought that was done really, really well.
It was done very accurately.
Very accurately, yes. And I think overall, like story-wise, just because it captured my attention I thought that, the accuracy there was done really, really well. I liked it at the end of the day. Like I enjoyed getting caught up in trying to figure out, what was going on, what was there. But is this something I would have picked up off the shelf and said, am I going to read this? Probably not. And I think that's why I enjoyed it even more, is because this is it totally hit me unexpected. It was a mystery where I didn't know there was going to be one. And I liked it for that. So, yeah.
Well, really quick, because Shayna, you missed it, but I was saying, like, I got this through like a book subscription service. And so, you know me, I'm a sci-fi to the core. It better have spaceships or I'm not involved.
Yeah.
But there wasn't really that's actually where I got A Space Between Worlds, was from this club. But anyway, yeah, so there wasn't really a good sci-fi option. And then I saw this one. I was like, well, Italy, sisterhood. I don't read contemporary, but I got it for that reason, just to try it. And then that's why I put it in this book club, because it's been on my shelf for months and months and months. So same thing. I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. And
Could I ask?
I actually told my my little sister that she should read this, because I think this is like totally up her alley. I think she'd really enjoy this, because it's completely different from what we've read. It steps away from that sci-fi region. But I also felt like it was something where, it was kind of a good study reflection on like your role in a strong family. And, and it's, I think all of us at some point have kind of felt that strain of, family first, or, friends or whoever. Right. And, I think everyone at some point kind of comes across that, and you kind of have to make a choice on, what's good for you versus what's healthy relationship with your family or your friends.
Well, and it's that unhealthy guilt that comes along with your individuality. Like, you want to be an individual. That's what we raise our children to be their own person. But in these very tight-knit families where it's family over everything, you work in the family business, you do this. It doesn't matter if you want to be a lawyer, you're going to be a baker now. And so it's this guilt, this, what do you call it? Familial guilt that they really look at in this book, that I think is so important.
Yeah.
Because yes, have your family, have your dynamics. But at a certain point, be selfish, be a little selfish. You are you. It is your life. And if you want to be a baker in Italy and not in Bensonhurst, freaking go to Italy,
Yeah,
I want
absolutely.
to ask a group a question. Can we talk about Lucy for a hot second?
Oh, God.
I was so fucking happy for Lucy. I was waiting, like, this whole time, right? I'm like, y'all, I bet Lucy gay. This whole time.
What was your first clue? What was your first clue?
The balls, I think.
Yes!
Actually.
Soccer.
Yeah, but not because, like, rather because it's like a lesbian stereotype. I was like, I bet that is on purpose. And then as soon as Sophia walked in and Lucy was like, nice tattoo, I was like, oh God. And then even before that, she I get you like sex, and Lucy's like, what makes you think I like sex? And I was like,
that moment was it for me.
Moment
was it for me. I was like, she don't like penis is what's happening. It's not it's penis she don't like.
I smelt it when the mother pulled her aside during that story and said, listen, I know how we're gonna break the curse, but first, no balls. And I'm like, I see it here. I am seeing it here. And that is a joke. She probably wrote this whole book around this one joke. She gets to make a balls joke.
I believe it. But I'm gonna be totally honest and say I think that is my favorite thing about this book, because I was not fucking queer baited.
It was the reverse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was it's like what I thought at first. Because she was this very, very airheaded, shallow slut. Right? It's like, wait, there's a man at 100 years. I bet I can fling my vagina over there. Right? Like they really made it out to be the dumbest ever. And then it's like, I'm not interested. It's everything's so old.
I resent the disdain in your voice when you characterized basically me. Like
no, I meant like
no.
I mean my 20s. I read that for my diary.
I'm
Right?
just saying.
No,
I was gonna say I had
how
a
they
run-in with
treated
the
her. This is how they treated her. And the thing is, Lucy's hypersexuality, like I would have wanted it to be like, listen, initially I'd have been like, listen, Lucy would be like the kind of person would be like, I like dick. Dick do have to stay by me. Right? I like dick, not man. Right? I just need a dick that could buy me drinks, handle my scenes, and get up my house the next day. Right?
Listen, I think this is very similar to what happened with Rosa being told she's the bee's knees. This is what you have to do. Lucy was told, you need to get a man. However you can get a man. Dress slutty, go out there.
Exactly.
Cook for the fuckboys, whether they show up or not. We all been there. You know, it's like, she was told from day one, you got to get a man. And how does a woman, you know, a young woman, she thinks with my body, with my sexuality. So it's interesting that at the end she made that note where she's like, I don't like it. And it's like she was pushed to be this person to get the goal that her mother wanted.
You ignore your heart. That's what they said, right? Like,
yes.
You ignore your heart to do things that you think will make other people love
you. Love you. Like, was everything. I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah. Can we talk about Emilia's makeover scene?
When she totted her up? The first one or the second one?
And Venice. Venice,
the first one. Where she have no glasses, can't see shit. Right? And they put on like 3 pounds of makeup on her. And it's like, well, yeah, you went out, you went to a club and all this kind of thing. Right?
Oh my God, that freaking
let me tell you, the secondhand embarrassment that I felt when she kissed homeboy with the jacket. I got red. I was like, this is way too much. I have to put on this. I was so embarrassed.
Oh my God. No. I read that and I was like, bitch, but why? Why are you sexually assaulting this innocent man?
She wanted to be bold. She was
bold. Yeah, she's like, I'm dressed up. She's like, I'm dressed up. I'm gussy. He called me back. I've seen this before. Like, this is the truth.
His jacket.
She was just feeling herself, right? I think we've all been there.
That's the thing. She was not feeling herself.
Exactly. She was not feeling herself.
I like how, again, we go back to, I like how Poppy described that. She said, this wasn't you, but you let me. It's like, no, you were trying on a mask. You had to find out whether that mask fit you or not.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, that's what I mean by feeling herself, right? She's trying to figure out who she is, and like, and I really like that
she's trying to figure out
that metaphor. Like, who am I? Am I this person? If I take a chance, like, what's gonna happen? I like that.
And could we also talk about Lucy, my favorite characters? Make Under, where she went out with like just bare lip gloss and
where she found a girl she liked, and she's like, you know what, I don't need
all this bullshit.
All this bullshit.
The thought that ran through my head in that scene is like, I don't need to spend. I could spend half an hour putting on makeup. I could spend half an hour between them days, right? I don't want to
priorities.
Quarters of my mother's
priorities, exactly.
Remember though, fashion and a lot of that stuff. Now we're taking it back, but initially it was for the male gaze. And still is for a lot of it. So I think that too was also maybe a little bit, you know, towards her recognizing her sexuality. Not that, you know, everybody wears makeup, but she was just like, wait a minute, I've been doing this for men.
Yeah.
Let me be comfortable with me. And so I think that was a step in the other direction. I think it was
and
nice.
I think she still continued to like wear like some makeup. It's like, okay, I like some of this, but not all of this.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like,
total derailment. I was trying to figure out when this book came out, and it turns out it came out on my birthday last year. Lol.
Wow.
Cool.
Sorry. But I was looking at the dates because we're looking at that male gaze thing and how, you know, whether or not women are taking back that like fashion and makeup and all of those things, because these things are for us. And when we dress this way, or when we put on makeup this way, or when we do these things are for us. This is art for us. This is to make me feel good, versus the other stuff. Because like if this were an older book, I'd be like, I don't know, is it true? But it is recent enough that I definitely agree with it.
So I liked that this book was about love. And I like the way before she died, Poppy explained that there were different types of love throughout her life. That there was passion, there was the stable life, there was, the various types of love. But I still felt that it was a very romantic, heterosexual gaze. Right?
I'm glad that you brought that up about it being a heterosexual gaze, because for most, I think like the first 30%, maybe 40% of the book, I was just kind of like, maybe she's just Ace. Can't you all just leave her the fuck alone?
We got spoiled with Ace Daddy Dio. I feel so. Ace Daddy Dio spoiled us rotten. That is a problem.
I can't.
But it's true. Like I spent a lot of that first portion just being like, because I can't begin to describe how much I hate that narrative of, you're cishet conforming, you just haven't met the right person yet, or you just haven't been put into the right circumstance yet. I cannot fucking stand that. No, ma'am, I am not cishet conforming.
So that is
and
why
I tried
I like,
for a long time to be. I promise you.
that is why I liked Lucy figuring out Sophia, and it's like, but it made a description of Sophia as like, you don't want to be gay, and you just had to have taste. You just had to have taste, because Sophia is some real best.
I was immediately more into Sophia than I was into Shibrado. And he full arms.
So was Lucy, and but also there's the dynamic between Daria and Emilia that was very strained. It was very, very, and I found that there was a whole lot more sisterhood and love that took place, like genuine, if not sisterly, if you want to be pedantic about it, cousinly love that took place between Emilia and Lucy. And they developed such a bond. They developed a bond in 8 days that Daria and Emilia could never.
So here's the question, because you all know that I have skipped some parts. Did we ever discover why Daria was such a shit to
We
You
did.
mean when she came to Italy?
No. I got to the part where she went back. She left Italy.
Okay.
But M, there's this thing with M over the course of the book where she's constantly asking Daria, what happened? What happened to us? What did I do?
Correct me if I'm wrong, because I also read this 2 weeks ago. I do believe it had to do with the story about how she went to college and got into the accident when she met her boyfriend. And the sister Daria hadn't believed it. And then
she was like, that fucking curse.
Yeah, and so she was being a cunt to keep her safe, to keep her away from men.
Yeah, so it was a weird dynamic of her being a bitch to keep, or not necessarily a bitch, but her not encouraging Emilia to leave to keep her safe. And also realizing that she depended on Emilia a lot more than she thought. So like if she encourages Emilia to not believe in the curse, to break the curse, to pursue her own life, she selfishly will lose Emilia in her life. She won't have someone to be with her. She won't have someone to watch the kid. She won't have her companion. So it's that weird dynamic of I want you to leave, but I need you to stay.
That's what I expected.
Yeah,
I didn't get to the end to see it, but I expected that it was intended to mirror a bit what we saw with Rosa and Poppy.
A little bit.
They had more codependence, though.
It was supposed to have mirrored it. It was supposed to have mirrored it, but I know this dynamic. I've been reading in psychology today. Oh my god, I sound so smart, man. About the golden child and the scapegoat. And it was y'all keep saying a weird dynamic. I'm like, no, it's not weird. This is typical.
It's
typical golden. And Daria was the golden child, and Emilia was
absolutely
right.
And it was the same thing with Rosa
Poppy
and Poppy.
And Poppy
was the scapegoat.
I felt like it was the same relationship. It was just at a different stage, right? Like I think Poppy and Rosa was at a point where it had deteriorated to a point where they couldn't be around each other. But like Emilia and Daria were coming to that point of like they still needed like each other in a way, more so Daria than Emilia, and they were kind of at that breaking point. And so this book kind of came at that moment where it was either going to break them apart or bring them closer together.
And I want to go back to the originators of the curse, those two sisters. One sister was assaulted and became scarred, and the other sister laid a curse on her. Blamed the sister as opposed to blaming the assaulter, right? And we see that dynamic play out. And we see that dynamic play out not just in our everyday lives, but also throughout the family. Like, look at Darius' kids. The older daughter had her nails polished. She had her somersaults.
The older daughter was the golden child, and the second daughter,
no nail polish, nothing, and no praise, nothing. Like, did you see your sister? It's like, yeah, but bitch, I flipped too.
Mm-hmm. So again, it comes back to all those things about like how closely we hold the beliefs, because it really plays out in how we act and how we treat other people, right? If you believe in this curse and you believe in the second daughter syndrome, then it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You're going to give Emilia hand-me-downs. You're going to give Poppy hand-me-downs. You're going to treat them as less than. You're going to not prioritize their health, their cleanliness, their education, their social activities. You're not going to prioritize any of those things.
As a parent of two boys, right? First son, I didn't buy anything. I got a lot of things free. A lot of brand new clothes because this was my first child, blah, 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 blah. Got pregnant again. And had my son less than 2 years later, by a couple of days, not that much. Had my son 2 years later, the second one. And he wore everything the older. And it was more of a matter of just being economical with what you have, right? It's not about, well, I love Callum more or I love Connor more, so I will treat, I'll spend money here, but not there. That is, when I'm spending money on them, that's not what happens, right? It's just that Connor will have a whole lot more hand-me-downs than Callum.
Yeah.
Right? Connor has more clothes because I buy for them equally.
Yeah. Right? The difference in this dynamic is that.
However, but again, I like what you said. Like it feeds that if the children here, well, second children get treated worse. It's not, well, look, I have extra home clothes I can get dirty in. It's
these are all the clothes you have.
Right. This is maybe mommy giving me Callum old clothes because she don't love me as much as Callum.
Yeah.
This whole book was basically second child syndrome, like personified.
Yeah.
In a romance. Second child syndrome
in a romance. Yeah.
I think romance was a theme, but I don't
in
think
Italy.
This was a romance book. This wasn't a romance book. This was not a romance book. But there were certainly romantic elements to the
elements. Yeah. I feel like it's more
quick lighthearted question for everyone. Did anyone else just have this strong desire to eat pasta all week though? Because I did.
Yes. I had a desire, and then I fulfilled the desire with pasta every day.
I cooked pasta.
Yeah.
I cooked pasta this week.
I made stuffed shells. I've never made that before, but I was just anyways, sorry. I had to get that in there somewhere.
I find in the first pages of this book when she's talking about the cannoli, I literally at the end of that, picked up my phone and I was like, is there anywhere open that is currently selling cannoli?
It's my favorite.
Yes.
What I found interesting, I don't know if in the audiobook they do it. I don't know if it's like text in the book, but they have a note from the author about it's in the book about these sort of
it's in the audio.
It's in the audio, yeah, of the source of the inspiration for this text, and I find it very interesting that we've talked about a lot of the text so far, but we haven't talked about some of the things that she intended to explore, which is sort of the displacement of immigrants and sort of running from the turmoil of the wall in that time.
Because I have no idea. I think it may be in the version of the book that I read, which is a Kindle book, but I maybe just either didn't get there or skipped it. Not really.
Yeah, she has notes from the author, and I think it's really interesting.
To the end.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, then I didn't get it yet.
Yeah. It's cute. It just talks about.
It's a page. You want me to read it?
Sure.
Yeah, as long as we don't violate copyright with it.
Well, we're going to trouble.
Oh yeah, that's a thing.
Well, it's okay. If we stop every few lines to make commentary, then it's fine.
Yeah, it's a letter. It's not the book. It says, "Dear reader, several years ago, I received a 6-page letter from a reader in Germany, Dieter K. We'll call him K.
Yeah.
An elderly man from Germany who grew up during World War II, had suffered unspeakable atrocities during the Nazi regime, and later behind the Iron Curtain under the German Democratic Republic. In 1965, Dieter and the love of his life, Johanna, made a harrowing escape from their home in Dresden. Dieter
wait. So for copyright and also for commentary, they named Johanna after that. Okay, and I'm guessing. Well, I mean, the place is the same as the actual place.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Dieter went on to become a world-famous juggler. He wanted me to write his memoir. I replied to Dieter, explaining that although his story was fascinating, I write fiction. In no time, we were corresponding regularly. We've become great pen pals, and even met in person when Dieter visited the United States. Though Dieter's story was not mine.
Crazy.
Yeah, though Dieter's story was not mine to tell, I couldn't stop thinking about the heartbreaking life he had endured, his spirit and resiliency. What happened to a relationship when a couple was split, one living in freedom, the other trapped in the Iron Curtain? Soon, a story formed. This one, contemporary fiction, with a female protagonist. Though vastly different from my German friend's story, with his permission and delight, I was able to sprinkle the novel with bits of his journey, his father being part of a troop of prisoners that entertained the Russian soldiers, his mother finding shelter for her children in a sawmill in the village of Klausnitz, the angst he felt when leaving his family behind, his escape route using the trains, and his bicycle. I hope you enjoy Poppy and Rico's story.
I wondered about that bicycle thing too, actually. I was like, bicycle?
The bicycle felt odd.
It stood out.
Really?
I didn't feel odd, but it stood out to me. Sorry, please.
It made sense to me
in as the rest of the story, but it felt deliberate. That makes sense?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Wait, was that the end of it?
So then she just says at the end, she's just like, I hope you enjoyed Poppy and Rico's story, and Emilia and Lucy's too, as much as I enjoyed writing it. And as Dieter signed off to me as Dieter signed off to me in his very first letter, with kindest regards, yours sincerely, Lori. So it's just a letter.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. I did wonder about why those particular choices, if it was just like to help set the era and like to help describe the generations and like the differences, the contrasts between the then and the now, which I guess it certainly did all of the above.
It did, yeah.
I mean, I selfishly am kind of obsessed with the World War II era. Just I'm half Jewish, so I have lineage and history there. And to me, it actually kind of impressed me. And when I was first reading that scene and about how, you know, he escaped using like the bicycle and the train tickets, and it was very deliberate. And to me, it seemed pretty authentic from, you know, and I'm not going to sit here and say I have a degree in history or anything, but, you know, it seemed pretty authentic, you know, compared to the things that I've read about people trying to escape from East Germany in that time, where like the idea was like, you got to convince them that you're coming back. And there's a lot of pressure there. So I didn't find it odd. I thought, you know, that, you know, the author like must clearly know, I've done some research or something there, because that seemed pretty realistic to me. Fanciful, but realistic, right? And then I read that letter, or listened to that letter at the end of the book, and it kind of made me think, oh, that's why it was so specific.
Yeah.
I actually think that's why the bicycle stood out to me, because I was like, that's oddly specific.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't sound like that. Was that common? Was that a common?
Well, it makes sense, because think about it. If you're on a train crossing borders, they're going to look for papers. If you cross in the woods on a bicycle or on a path, nobody's going to say anything really, if they even see you.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, it was the idea at the time was to try to be as incognito as possible, and try to make it seem like, you know, that you're, again, like obviously like you're taking nothing with you. You know, you're clearly coming across
just a day trip, a weekend trip.
Yeah, you know, you're like, and that was kind of the whole goal at the time, was to, you know, take as little with you and seem as unsuspicious as possible. So, you know, even though it was pretty specific, like I I felt like it felt pretty authentic to me, someone who's a little obsessed with that time period in history.
Yeah.
Well, that's
For
a
sure.
good thing.
I just thought it was an interesting, like, hindsight kind of thing of like, oh, that's why it was so sort of specific and so detailed and so, I guess, high stake. It felt very high stake. The stakes felt very real. The high stakes felt real. It didn't feel like high stakes out of nowhere arbitrarily, or like I'm supposed to feel this way because it's this time period. It felt like the stakes were high.
Yeah. And as I forget, it's like, yes, there were millions that were affected by it, but the millions that were affected by it were affected like this couple was.
Yeah.
You know, that this is what war does. Like, we see, oh, well, yeah, millions of people were affected. Yeah, but they were affected.
Kind of arbitrary when we think about it as millions of people, but when you have a story, you're like, oh, wow.
Yeah. But also, the way that, we have the matriarchy and everybody on the Italian side was forced to live this life. In a way, it happened to Puerto Rico as well, because even if he wanted to come back, his father had the stroke. So now his family ties are holding him back in Germany.
Nobody could run the garage.
So he had to stay, even though, Poppy was there, his child was there, and
I love that he came back. Let me tell you how heartbroken I was when she was at the stairs and he wasn't there, and I was like, oh, he's probably dead already. I was like,
that's what I thought.
I thought that
or he had like a stroke, and then to find out when he was in hospital, and
then when we go to back to the apartment, first of all, I love how the apartment thing happened. But then when we get back to the apartment and everybody telling them sit down, have tea, have coffee, we thinking he dead, he alive in the hospital somewhere. Open with that. Start with that.
That is not their culture. That is not their culture.
But also, why would you just randomly tell a stranger all your family business about where your grandfather in hospital was?
Yeah.
No, you're gonna be like, well, how come you want to come inside my house? That song a little weird.
Yeah, fair.
What's your story?
I begged your grandpa.
To be in my house.
And in fact, he did such a quick turnaround as well when they were in the hospital. Like, he was on his deathbed and he outlived Poppy. Like that.
Because he'd lost his wife, right? And he'd been shot twice. Remember, he'd been shot twice trying to get back to her. Because he did not know she was pregnant.
So that was something.
That really. So while I make case for empathy and understanding Rosa's plight, let me tell you that moment when homeboy read the letter and it was verbatim what she dictated to send to Eric, I was mad. I put on the audiobook. I had to go and walk in the sun for a little bit because I was ready.
Yeah, I had to do the same thing. I had to be like, pause it, walk away.
Like, this be.
Like, yeah, for real.
I was like, that is why you thief everything from everybody to live the life you want, right? And you still there sucking Karaili in the middle of a sweet pastry. Look, you get what you look for. Live your Karaili life.
I was real mad.
Rosa's study in bad people does get good things. And it's still not enough.
Yeah. And not just that, and another thing that really pissed me off is Poppy being merciful.
Yes, but no.
She was dying.
She was dying. Let me explain why. It's not even about she was dying. I have a lot of hate in my heart. No. For real. I have a lot of hate in my heart. But, and the thing is, it's very cliche. Right? Is that people will say things like your anger is only hurting you. The hate that you're holding on to is only hurting you. It's only holding you back. And that's because it's heavy. Let me finish, Talia. Let me finish. And that's because it's heavy. It's heavy, right? And I have learned in the short time I have been on this earth that sometimes it's good to hold on to. And sometimes it's best to set it aside, right? And I can appreciate that Poppy, with all that she has done, simply understanding that the weight of that is not worth it. Because the freedom I have to let them sit down and spite their own face That freedom. So much better to
Oh, and I
be
love that she was rich, man. She invested in Apple and she was so cute about it. She's like, oh,
That was so out of left field. It's like, well,
yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I would have done the same thing. I was like, something had to happen to explain why this woman has so much money. And then she said it, and I was like, cool, good.
she's like, I just got some money in a tech
Somebody
company.
read this. Some one of her beta readers read this and was like, listen, you need to explain why Puppy rich. Because it's not making no sense.
why she comes out on top in the end. Oh,
no,
man.
okay, like I was like, okay.
Also,
Don't say nothing until after I did, right? Because I don't want to be involved in your bacchanal and your shippiness. Leave me out it. I could understand Poppy saying that, but oh no, spare your grandmother. I'm sorry, spare the woman you thought was your grandmother, but it was really your great aunt. Save it for until after she dies. It's like.
But how much of that is Poppy also understanding that Rosa clearly is mentally unstable and emotionally fragile, and like
will make everybody's life hell.
Anything will risk her, not just Rosa's life, but everybody else that is attached to Rosa. So like, while it's good-hearted and it might have been, it's also understanding the entire dynamic. And like, if we blow up Rosa and Rosa's world, Rosa's not the only person that's going to have to suffer.
Full House of Cards had a fall.
Thank you.
House of Cards had
Hold
a
on.
fall.
Thank you.
I will say, there's a certain point where you have to realize that there's some people in our lives that we're not going to get apologies for, and we're not going to get explanations from.
No.
Those
Those are the very people. Those are the very people. You need to take that anger and set it aside, so that when you rise high enough,
I will set it aside on your baby toe. I will rest that pain and anger where you could stub your toe. This dotishness about anger does only hurt you. It's bullshit.
No, I agree with that for sure.
Because you lack imagination.
You see, this is
what you need to do is fire burn all my aunts, fire burn my great aunt Rose and Facebook,
that heavy
right?
anger
From your Apple Watch or whatever, and go and lie down and sleep and turn off your watch, right? Fling it in a pool, sleep with somebody cute, and and let the chips fall away.
How would we lose Brie? I will be the first person to say that I agree with that, right? But it does not change because when I say when you do something with that anger, right? For me, I ain't gonna like to tell all you. Spite is my fuel,
Kindly explain what is my motto. You know my motto.
Yeah, through spite, all things are possible. It's true.
I can do all things through spite, which strengthens me.
It's true.
That is so hilariously blasphemous.
No, but it's true. But that's one of the reasons I say that I understand Poppy, And maybe she said all these things, but I choose to believe in my reader's heart, in my head canon, Poppy could be so forgiven because she know that all that anger she holding on to, or that she could have held on to, if you turn that into spite and you let it fuel you, right? Eventually,
you'll have a farm with a horse.
Eventually, to turn into carbon and water and return to the earth, right? And somebody else go and suffer for it, Is that you? Not you. Them. Let them and all their BS watch you turn that into good spite fuel and get rich and get happy.
I can't do the spite thing, but I can't do the spite thing, but I definitely think she understood that her actions affect more people than just Rosa, and also that Rosa was already suffering. Like Rosa clearly was not happy. The fact that Rosa is holding on to all of that anger and bitterness and resentment and working so hard to keep everybody in line so that she could breathe easy, and she still wasn't breathing easy. You already know Rosa wasn't happy.
Plus, I honestly thought that the son-in-law was the son to how he was so ground under that thumb.
Yeah.
And that is because when the wife died, she insinuated herself, set a boundary. I know her blueprint for doing this. I could tell all.
Sorry. I just had to address one comment in the chat. that spite takes so much energy, which is precisely why it makes excellent fuel, ma'am.
Very high caloric values.
But also talking about how Rosa was like so miserable. What else takes energy? Living a freaking lie. Like holding these walls up with her two hands and keeping them from crumbling, because the truth always comes out. And that's why she's like, go to Italy. You're not going to Italy. You're staying here. Your Nona needs you. And it's like, because that was going to crumble her freaking walls down.
Yeah, I mean that's why
Nona was tired.
That's why she spent so much energy trying to keep Poppy away, keep her from having that time with her, right? Because she was terrified of her learning the truth.
There were other brothers. There was a brother that owned the barber shop. There were other brothers that they had.
Yeah,
and they all ostracized Poppy at Rosa's request. So
for me, I feel like at some point in your life, you realize that carrying all these feelings of angst, anger, spite, and everything takes more away from you as a person, and more of your capacity to do other things for your life, right? And I felt like that's where
space for all of this.
Yeah, I felt like that's the point that Poppy. Yeah, it's emotional labor, and for me, I felt like because like one of my mottos has always been, being angry and being happy takes the same amount of energy. But if I have to take myself from being angry to being happy, that takes twice the amount of work for me. So if I learn to let go of my anger, then I'm putting all of that work back into myself to be happy. And I felt like that's where Poppy was at.
And that's why, right? You take all of that, and if you turn it into fuel, that's how you get rid of it.
No, okay.
Yes.
Then you spend 4 or 5 years turning it into fuel when you could have just
spent 4 or 5 years turning it into fuel.
Because you know what? Whether you believe in karma, the universe, whatever,
it took you 4 or 5 years to turn your anger and your resentment.
Listen,
okay. 4 or 5 years to turn that into fuel. You're doing it wrong. No, what you do is sit down and you say, no. I want to be clear about this. Because I think there is nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with taking those negative feelings and turning it into something that is productive and useful and powerful to you.
That's fair, but I don't think spite is that.
No, you
Here.
I believe in balance, right? And I think I have earned a little toxicity, right? Sure. I have earned my toxic ways.
I ultimately think that this is a matter of semantics, because I agree with Shayna, like those things that's emotional labor, that's hard work, and that's not good for you, because you spending all of your time with all of this emotional labor, letting it take up space in your brain, letting it take up space in your day, letting it take up space in your energy and your vibe that you could be using to do something that is more likely to make you happy. And I agree with that, right? For me, when I decide, because for me, that's my letting go process. If I can take all this bad shit and turn it into something that helps me to achieve something that I'm happy about and proud of and love for me, does it also spite somebody else? Sure. But that doesn't have anything to do with how much I love it and enjoy it, because I would love it and enjoy it regardless. Right? And that's what I mean. Like, for me, it's the same thing. Do I let go of those feelings? I don't know if it's letting go in the same way other people think about it, but I do know that all of those heavy feelings are gone by the time I've achieved the thing I want to achieve. Because somewhere on that path, I stop using my anger and my spite and whatnot as fuel, because it's your momentum, right? I might use that to get me off the ground,
Yeah, so you think of it more as like the combustion or the spark that gets you going in the other direction, but not necessarily the thing that takes you throughout the entire journey.
Exactly, because it will never do that.
It's like all relationships, like, and I'm including Rosa's relationship with Emilia here, right? You had what happened, the difference with how Poppy handled it versus how Emilia initially wanted to handle it. They were simply they had to go through the grieving process, right? And the last stage is acceptance. But one of the early stages is anger. right? And when people tell me, don't feel anger, don't have spite or whatever, it's like, no, that's the stage I'm at right now, right? I'd like to move on to the other stages.
Toxic positivity.
Although, Kira, I'll give it to you, because as you're explaining this process, in my head, I'm like, oh, I've done that. And so I had a breakup with a guy, and I broke up with him because he didn't have, the same feelings for me, whatever. Hey, if you're out there, call me. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Just kidding. But,
What?
hey, shoot your shot. Anyway, no. But anyway, when we broke up, I broke up with him. But then I got my ass in the gym because I'm like, if I'm going to walk away from him, I'm going to make it look good as I'm walking away. And so for like the first 3 months, I'm hitting the gym hard because I'm thinking like, fuck this guy. But then the 6 months in, 9 months in, I was doing it for me. I was enjoying it. I was having fun. And I was like, girl, I look good for me. But yeah. I give him the credit though. He was the combustion fuel I needed. So yeah, Kira, you have a point.
There is fairness to that, and there's truth to that, and point to that. But I think a lot of people don't acknowledge that.
A lot of people
don't go through the full transition. A lot of people don't let go of the spite and let it become sort of self-motivation. A lot of people hold on to the spite.
Them don't do it. People tell them don't do it.
Yeah.
So now I have to fight you for your toxic positivity.
And when you aren't allowed to experience those negative emotions, when you feel anger and you decide, no, my anger isn't good, I'm not supposed to feel anger. Anger makes me a bad person. Spite makes me a bad person. Feeling sad, feeling those things that we consider negative feelings. When we decide that those feelings make me bad in some way, because if I'm having those feelings,
then I am inherently bad.
Yes.
Feel them for a month.
Noise.
Feel them for a month.
Exactly.
Let them go. But if you don't feel them for a month, they come up a year later.
Yeah,
tenfold.
You have to let yourself feel all those things.
Yeah,
it's
feel
absolutely necessary.
your feelings. Like the thing is, like, I've been in Emilia's shoes where you've lived with the person, right? And you know what's an oily rag next to a bunch of newspapers? Drawing boundaries, right? Letting the other, identifying to the other person that they did something wrong. Hey, you hurt me. And then they're going to turn back and they say, but I did so much for you, but nobody asked you to, or that was your duty, right? And those are oily rags, and those are newspapers, and they're just under the house because how dare you? Y'all have a stop to consider that Rosa's main shtick was loyalty and family above all.
Boy, but that's how they do it.
Of all things,
do it. All the things that I'm not doing, everybody else must do for me.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Everybody else must do for me.
Because it's how Daria told Emilia. She said she sacrificed her entire adult life. It's like,
boy,
you sacrificed Poppy's entire motherhood.
And like, think about how messed up that is, right? Rosa sacrificed her entire adult life to take care of Daria and Emilia when it was in truth and in fact Rosa's fault, because she clung so heavily to this lie, because the thing that killed the mother was this blood transfusion that was invalid because that's not your child. That's not your child. So literally Rosa killed what's her face? Josephina, Josana, whatever her name is.
Joe.
It's literally Rosa's fault.
Joe.
And so she's walking around with all this girls on top of all of that.
It was
right,
karma.
but is she going to say that's her fault? Is she going to say that's her fault?
But she knows it, and that's why she's clinging so desperately to this mirage of this life that she created for herself, because she can't face the truth. The truth would literally kill her.
Okay, then die, bitch.
Bree, what were you saying?
Oh, I just said that it was karma, but then poor Joe had to pay the price. Rosa didn't pay the price. Joe paid the price for her lie. Mm-hmm. That hurts.
Mm-hmm.
Not just Joe, but Daria and Poppy.
Emilia.
All the women.
And
family.
But that's what happens when you hold on to things like lies and anger and spite, right? Is that it doesn't just impact you as a person, it can leach out and affect other people that you love.
Right.
So
that's my whole point, right? Is that you can have this destructive feeling that drives your whole purpose for living, and it starts to destroy the things that you're trying so desperately to hold on to. Whereas if you learn to, channel that into, just like what Kara was describing, you learn to channel that into something more constructive, that's like looking not just inwards at yourself, but something that's going to, channel that into, something that is going to build better. Right. And that's the whole point here. I felt like was that, the whole idea that Poppy got to a point where, she can look at her sister Rosa at the end of the day and say, she did what she did because she felt like that's what she needed to do. She was stuck in this situation where she had no way out. And so she needed me to be that scapegoat to, to live the life that she thought she needed to have. And at the end of the day, I forgive her for it. I still love her because she's still my sister. That Poppy deserved.
Yeah.
But
Poppy
you know what?
deserved her
Because
life, though.
she did, but it took she still lived an incredible life.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as she is, it wasn't. But I mean, who lives the life that they picture when they're younger?
Yeah, but living the life that you picture when you're younger and living
and having a life,
are not always the same thing.
Sometimes she still got what she wanted. She had to wait till she was 80 to get it.
Prioritize what she wanted. She had to shift her wants basically, and
that's life. That's natural life. Like we don't ever get the things that we envisioned when we want it, but that doesn't mean you give up on it.
Yeah.
But here's a question: is her 10-month love with Rico enough? Is that enough?
I mean,
she deserved a lifetime.
10 months or 10 years or 100 years, you're still with the person that you love. It's never going to be enough, but you still get it. That's the whole point.
You like half glass full, half glass empty. It's like she could have had no money. She could have never met Rico and moved to America and lived this awful life. But she had the privilege of finding love and happiness and joy and what that could look like. And I think that was part of what gave her fuel and bravery. I mean, she was always a brave woman, but to choose to still pursue a life. So that even when she saw that the chips were down and she couldn't make a life for herself with this family that is now betraying her, she still had the fire in her of, well, no, I have things to live for because there's this person out there that
you know what? It's like that romance was like, it's like that romance was high octane.
Yeah,
and they had it in the beginning, and it kind of drove her.
Yeah.
I want to add, and my brain just totally farted. That was it. It's about control. Sorry,
it's because I was talking and being me.
It's true. It's very like you. I thought it was a sneeze, but you're right. It's probably more likely you.
It's just me. It's fine.
It's the truth, y'all. Shit, now I've forgotten again. God damn it.
I do want to say,
control.
I can fix this. Hold on.
Control. Just remind me that's what we're talking about. Sai, you go.
No, go for it, Kate.
It was just about Rosa and this issue of control is that I do think that a lot of Rosa's justification as the psychopath that she is, I think that it was Poppy was not under Rosa's control. When Poppy did all of these things, she was not under Rosa's control. When Rosa made these deals with about Ignicio and all of this stuff, that was Poppy exerting her control over Rosa. And then suddenly she didn't have that control. And what could she do when she needed to assert control? She could take this child, and then that was also her asserting her control over Rosa, and that's what it all became, right? Sorry, asserting control over Poppy. And that's ultimately what it all became. Rosa is able to, I think she was ultimately able to, what's the word I'm looking for here, to justify this to herself, because it's all about maintaining, control. Like, if I can't control Poppy, then Poppy can't be part of our family in any way. If I can't control you, then you get to be an exile next as well, right? It's all about control. If I get your child, this is mine now, right? And it's okay for me to do that, because so long as you're outside of my sphere of influence, you're outside of my control, you're not a real person, or you're at least not something I need to consider. Yeah? You are not a pawn on my table, right? So I could take what I want from you with, yeah. Anyway, that was just a brain fart. Sigh.
No, you're fine. And I mean, I think it's also fair, right? Of the fear of that loss, the
loss of control.
Making decisions out of fear is never a good idea, guys. Faith over fear always. I was gonna say when Shane was talking, just kind of about using an emotion or a perceived negative emotion, and sort of transforming it for something good or to challenge something good is useful. But also, if Rosa had just let herself feel what she needed to feel without even transforming it into anything, without even saying, I'm going to make this the thing that like pushes me into becoming a better wife or working on my marriage or anything like that, just feeling the loss, feeling the sorrow, feeling the disappointment. If she just felt those things, how much better, or if she had space to think that she could feel those things, how much better or easier and sort of more productive their lives would have been if she just had space to think that, oh, this is a thing that I can feel, and I have support.
I mean, she certainly felt the audacity. So
she was afraid. She was fearful.
I have less than zero sympathy for this woman. Ken knows fully well why.
Yeah, boy.
Right? And we can have this conversation after, whatever, but I have zero sympathy for her because she made deliberate choices.
And she did know better. She really did know better. Right?
Huh?
And she didn't know better.
She knew better. She knew better because she'd been scheming. She and her sister pregnant at the exact same time. That's how she knew
her fear.
Pregnant. Right?
Fear.
And then when she had miscarriage, she didn't tell her sister, who she supposedly loved, that she had a miscarriage. Right?
Yeah.
She didn't tell her that. She's like, listen, help me get into. And she done start a scheme and plot and everything. And it's like, listen, you can't even let the people on the board know. Right? On board the ship, no. Can't let nobody know. My husband can't see you holding your own child. Right? So the only time that Poppy got to be a mother was when it was convenient to Rosa. Right? And that is the thing. And she wouldn't even include her in the conversations. Nothing, not even while, Mrs. Smith in cabin 5B said, if you hold the baby like this instead, she'll be able to latch better. And this is an easier way to Nothing. Rosa had zero redeeming qualities. She deliberately excluded her sister. She worked that bitch like a pawn. Right?
Yeah,
and
it was all very purposeful.
Everything. So I have zero for her. Because like I said, if she had the space to feel, well, she felt the audacity for sure and for certain. She felt the manipulation.
She was motivated out of fear. She was motivated out of fear of loss of all of the things that she had been told she should be, she was promised. All of those things were threatened.
So and it was threatened by the person that she was raised to believe was worthless.
Exactly.
So why they didn't have a plan to go to an orphanage and find a child? Why you?
Because we also acknowledge that Rosa was a lazy bitch and she wasn't doing nothing she didn't want to do. Why would I go through the trouble? Why would I go through the trouble of finding an orphanage and a whole next child when I could just thief she on it right there?
Yeah, no, it's convenience, right? I mean, it's family. It's we already will look similar because we're already family and. It's convenience, right? It's feeding her fear,
I really wonder how this would have played out if there had been more blonde blood and so the children were blonde instead. Because I wouldn't fly. Imagine Rosa 2-3 years down the line constantly dyeing this child hair black. And the father wants to know what's going on with you, why this happened. Well, now not saying no reason.
That's
why are these eyebrows
shit.
blonde? No reason.
that's Stargirl shit.
Yeah.
It is.
It is.
Star-daughter, you mean, right?
Star-daughter.
Or Star, what was it? I'm sorry.
Star-daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, you said Stargirl, but Stargirl is like a comic book character too, and I think
no, I meant Star-Daughter. It was Star something.
There's a show for that now too, I think, which is
but like, I mean, Rosa's selfish decisions impacted generations of people.
Yeah.
Generations of people. So to say, she made this one mistake. That's like saying, we need to understand Hitler because he didn't get into art school. Imagine if he got. It feels like that.
He was also mentally unstable. I'm not saying we understand him. I'm saying people also have you have motivations for your choices. I'm not saying like any of the choices were okay, but I am saying there's a motivation for that choice.
Yeah, but I think we also, I don't know if this is what you're saying, Seidel, but I also want to acknowledge that your motivations could also be stupid.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Cursing. Absolutely. But there's still a motivation, right? It's not like she wake up one day and was just bad. It's not like she woke up one day and she was just like, it's nature versus nurture, right? Was she born a narcissist? Who knows? But
to be fair, you can't be born a psychopath though. So like,
yes, you can.
Which definitely she was.
I think that there's definitely no. I think that yes, nature is a big part of it. But remember that there's a certain amount of nature that no nature can change.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like we are hardwired for certain things. We are programmed. Our brains work
even just that moment at the end where she's like crying on the phone, where they make mention of when they call Rosa before she passes, or whoever calls whoever before they pass, and Rosa's like crying on the phone with Poppy, suggests that she can acknowledge guilt and and she does feel remorseful for all of the pain that she's caused and inflicted upon all these people, right? So then,
but not enough to actually do anything about it.
But that's true, caught. And that's fine. But it's a scale, right?
She got caught. That's all it is. She's crying because she got caught.
Exactly.
Sorry,
is she really crying because she's truly remorseful, or is she crying because of her own? Oh no, I've been caught. Alas.
I don't think it's I've been caught, alas, because this was like a while after she's been caught. Everybody's been living in Florence. They left. We're done with Rosa. And this is somebody on their deathbed saying, well, this is my generous interpretation. This is somebody on their deathbed looking back at the life they've lived and yes, feeling like I've been caught out, but also I've made some really bad decisions and hurt a lot of people that I should care about. Not necessarily that I do care about, but that this relationship should have some weight here, and I've hurt these people. That's just my generous interpretation.
Oh no, I worked so hard to have all of these people, and now my lies have fallen on top of me, and I am alone.
It's like a Caesar. It's a Caesar situation.
Yeah, but that's not regret. That's still regret for no, I've been caught. Like
it's very much giving me, I'm sorry you feel this way vibes.
Yeah.
Yes, Rosa, give us nothing.
Well, exactly. Rosa's problem is that she doesn't know how to validate herself. She lives on external validation. My womb better be fertile so that my husband loves me. Because if my husband doesn't love me, I'm nothing. She has no value outside of what others think of her. I'm the queen of the family. I own the bakery. Everybody works for me. I'm the boss. She gets value in her life. She only gets value in her life by how others look at her. She doesn't know how to self-validate, and that's her problem.
I think you hit the nail on the head. That is very much a Rosa problem. However, what did Rosa do? Rosa hurt 4 generations of people
to keep getting the external validation,
to keep getting validation,
to be needed. Oh, you know what it is? It's like Munchausen by proxy. I'm gonna keep making my kid sick so my kid needs me and I feel useful.
Can we talk about when she got the hook in her lip and her father wanted to take her to the hospital?
Oh yeah.
Yes. Oh
right.
Wow. And Rosa was just
you denied a fucking child medical attention. I don't care whether, because that could have been infected. That could have been
tetanus.
Thank you. Right. So that is what. So I mean, as a mom, quite frankly, right? You cannot tell. But again,
I did
question how. Literally, I keep saying it, but it's so true. How desperately we cling to our belief systems and how that informs.
Her belief system was that she sacrificed herself and her adult life.
But how much of that?
Daria and Emilia.
Yes, and how much of that is ingrained in this idea?
If Emilia is in need of medical attention, the least she could have fucking did was let her father take her to the hospital.
No, because she has everybody under her boot.
But she has to maintain control. She is superiority. Her father wouldn't do anything without consulting her. So even if the father wanted to take her to the hospital, the father still had to go to her for consultation about any decision.
Or let me tell you how permission works, right? As somebody who's a parent, my stepson will come to me, Auntie Nicola, can I do XYZ? Right? And let me tell you, the most amount of responsibility I have when he comes to ask me to do certain things. Auntie, I see you have some ramen here. Could make that? This is me giving permission. Yeah. Do you know what I do afterwards? Not one fuck, because he will go and he will take it out of the cupboard. He'll put it on the stove. He will make it. And that is all that Emilia's father needed. Rosa, give me permission. Let me take my daughter to the hospital. Or give me the emotional support that I need. And all he needed was for her to say, take her now. Take her and go.
But
right?
How much of that?
That control did nothing for Rosa.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Because it's go ahead.
No, I'm probably gonna say exactly what you're gonna say, but that it validates the second daughter shit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She needs to hold on to the idea that the second daughter curse is real and true and valid, which therefore means that the appearance of the second daughter does not matter.
That is why,
and therefore, she doesn't need medical attention.
More of uppance. That is why she deserves more of a comeuppance than anything else.
I disagree. I think she deserves comeuppance.
Hold on. I just want to remind you all that I opened this by saying that Rosa was abusive.
That Rosa what?
That Rosa was abusive because that is textbook child abuse.
Yeah.
That is felony kidnapping. That is felony kidnapping. That is making a false police report. Mm-hmm. That is generations of abuse. Right?
And why might we even say manslaughter?
No, definitely manslaughter.
Mm-hmm.
Voluntary, involuntary, definitely.
Nah, that was voluntary.
That was voluntary.
I have absolutely
because she didn't want to tell the lie. Oh, give her the blood, she'll be fine. But she ain't no scientist. She ain't no doctor.
And she will say some bullshit. And I'm speaking from personal experience. Like, well, I was a mother. I may have made mistakes, but I did the best that I could.
No.
I am just more inclined.
I'll show you.
Because I think for me, the fascination for me is because people like this really do exist out here in this world. The fascination for me in the analysis of come down from there. Sorry, the cat.
No, it kind of
just
like could my fascination
down everything.
Just come down from there, please?
The fascination of the analysis for me is figuring out sort of where we went wrong, right? Because again, it's that nature versus nurture argument of, okay, so people may be born a little bit awry, but also the environment that you're raised in and the things that you're taught to believe and hold on to affect so deeply how you live your life out in this world and how you value what your value systems are, how you treat other people, how you treat yourself, how you operate in relation to anything else outside of yourself. And all of those things, I think, are so colorful and multi-layered and interesting, and the mental health argument of it is also just very interesting, that I am more inclined to seek to understand Rosa. I'm not inclined to excuse anything that she's done. I'm not inclined to justify anything that she's done. I'm not saying she was great, it was a good idea, but it's just interesting to me to think about or flesh out how all of those one-off moments or how all of those small moments in her life all contributed to in some way the evolution of decisions that she's chosen to make, right? Because at the end of the day, these are all her choices. We can acknowledge that. But how much of that is impacted by all of the things that have been said to her, have been done to her, she's been excluded from or included in on? How much of those things inform the woman that she became?
Yeah.
It's just very interesting to me.
I mean, for me, I was going to say, for me, like, I think, Seda, you bring up a good point. I felt like for me, like this story was a story of two very different people that were put through like a not uncommon situation, right? I mean, this is something that a lot of immigrants have gone through, a lot of people from different families have all gone through. I think it's very distinctive in that we see Rosa as an embodiment of someone who is trapped under the pressure of expectations, and someone who has to represent that person who brings the family from their home country into a new country, and all of the expectations of carrying on the family name and traditions and a whole country's worth of traditions with you, and never to let that die. That's a big burden to carry. But at the same time, when she starts off, that whole journey with a lie, and someone who now has that burden to carry on top of, the fear that's driving her to keep this lie alive, I felt like this book was a depiction of what that kind of expectation and fear can do to a person over time. Whereas you have someone like Poppy that, she's someone who also bore that similar struggle, but instead of staying with it and trying to carry that with her, she let it go. And when she left the family for Pennsylvania, she decided to let it go and build herself a life. And so that's where I see the difference between these two people, is that you have one person who clings to it and holds on to it out of fear, versus someone who says, I'm going to make myself happy, and I'm going to let go of these expectations, and I'm going to live my own life. And for me, that's kind of where I see, these two people and this whole story start to come together, because, it's a study in, exactly what I was saying, is that you have, what you do as a person versus, what you're expected to do with your life.
I've got a question here. Why was Lucy important? Just because she was another second daughter? Was there anything else? Because, I mean, Emilia was obviously important for a lot of reasons, particularly because she was actually her granddaughter. Daria, okay, would have been important, but Daria's a bitch because she's buying into the whole second daughter bullshit, right? And she wants to have nothing to do with Poppy because she's so pressed under Rosa's thumb as well. So the next question is why Lucy? Was it solely because she was the only other second daughter there, or was it something else? And what role did Lucy really have in all of this?
I felt like Lucy became Emilia's sister. You know what I mean?
I think she was Emilia's sister kind of all along, because that's who Emilia looked after from the time that she was little. She spent a lot of time, going and kind of talking to her and trying to tell her, like, don't worry about this. But I felt like, that relationship came to its head when they were in Italy, because, now you have Emilia who's struggling to, keep after Lucy, but you also have Lucy pushing Emilia to break out of her shell, right? I felt like Lucy played this role of, someone who has again, has that pressure to live up to, breaking the curse and doing all and becoming all these great things, as a lot of us feel when we're younger. But she's the one who ultimately who breaks Emilia out of, encourages her to break out of her shell and to say, no, you're not going to go out just like that. You're going to dress yourself up. You're going to try something. You're going to come out with me. And under this kind of guise of having to look after Lucy, or she makes all these excuses of, like, I have to do this because Lucy's going out, like I need to keep an eye on her. It kind of helped drive and draw Emilia out
and give her a motivation to engage in the activities that she would otherwise have said no to.
Yeah.
I think in a way that they were catalysts for each other. And I think they were equal and opposite. They had the commonality of being the second sister, which is the obvious connection. But then they were both in different parts of their lives. For instance, Lucy was very, confident and young and got out there, and she started early. Whereas Emilia, it's funny, I had a real cringe moment after she slept with what's his face, and then she was like planning the wedding in her head basically, and so torn up. And at first I was like, girl, get it together. But I was like, no, I had that when I was in my 20s. I was like, I feel you. She just had it later in her 30s. And so in a way, it's like, because they're opposites, it's they kind of helped each other.
They were literally the two ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
But Emilia needed to have that moment where you plan the wedding after you sleep with a guy and then realize, no, it doesn't have to mean anything, you know?
Yeah.
That's really a thing.
Yeah.
When you're young. We've all done it.
When you start late. But,
yeah, but
also,
that's just a way
I feel like Emilia and, like you said, you mentioned that they were both the opposite ends of the spectrum, right? And I felt like they didn't turn into each other.
They met in the middle.
But they both found their true selves, because again, that lie that that was repeatedly bashed into them, that they need to be X, that they were fine with. Lucy was fine with being a slut despite not liking men and she was like the original. She was like the dumb girl, she was like the will do anything for a man's attention, like desperate for male attention. It's like, but wait a minute, I don't get that. I'm not into that. And like, I feel like that moment where she says to when she says to Emilia, she said, I don't like sex.
You think I like sex?
It started in her head, and like, but wait, if I don't like sex, why am I doing this? If I don't like sex, why am I throwing myself at men? If I don't like sex, why am I leading into the male gaze? And it was after that conversation, we had the bathroom scene that I like to call it with Emily and her, and she's like, okay, well, she's gonna go, and it's gonna be like 3 hours before I can get into the shower, and Lucy walks out. Hi, sugar.
But see, they needed each other. They needed each other to push the pendulum.
That was exactly.
Even though they got to the end and they're like, whoa, this is too far. I'm not okay with, walking the streets at night, kissing strange men, that sort of thing. But she was able to pull it back in and be like, oh, maybe I should go talk to my friend. Another cringe moment. But like, I loved it though. Cause I'm like, please don't end up with the best friend. Mm-hmm. And I love that she tried it though. She's like, I'm going to go and try and love my best friend.
Also, I knew that moment when she got there and the hat was there, I knew. I was like, that hat not there for you, sis. That hat there for homegirl. And then when she got to the place, and I was like, oh.
But what I loved was that when she realized that he was not there for her, and that the cousin and him had gotten together,
she's like
there was this overwhelming joy inside of her.
Like, oh, thank God.
I legit cried. I was like, I am so proud of you, Emilia.
But again, homegirl had the cojones to try it, and now she pulled it back, and guess what, now she had the cojones later on to talk to lawyer guy avocado or whatever, and now who knows?
Avocado.
I love that a lot, because I found that the whole friend thing was super cringy. It was one of the reasons why I was like, well, look, maybe she's just fucking ace, or she just don't like this guy, and it's okay for her to not like this guy, and she doesn't have to be ace to not like this guy. She just doesn't have to freaking like him. And God knows I've been in that position. So
I think another thing too.
Sorry.
Go ahead. I was gonna say, like, I was gonna get into like another aspect of Emilia and Lucy's relationship that, kind of all, because we had that comparison between Daria, Emilia, and Lucy and Rosa, but I also felt like we had a comparison between just sibling relationships or just familial relationships between, you have one kind of relationship, and that is like Daria and Emilia, but then you also kind of find that one person in the family that you click with, right? I mean, you don't always get along, but you do things for each other. And that's the relationship that we saw between Lucy and Emilia, right?
Yeah.
And regardless of, if you're an only child or, you have lots of siblings and stuff, somewhere in the mix of it all, you find someone that is that family member that is, you will do or die for that person. Yeah. And that was the comparison we could kind of see from a youthful perspective between those two relationships. And that's also why I felt like Lucy was a key part of the story.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
we couldn't have the transformation without Lucy because Poppy was dying. Like,
Yeah.
like could you imagine Emilia and Poppy being in Italy alone? Like, there would be no transformation. There would
No.
be
Oh
no.
yeah, no. I mean, I think functionally that definitely that they Lucy, but I mean, you could
I
have.
think it's
It could have been. I could have been a number of other people in the family. We just would not have received those same kind of dynamic. Sorry, my
dynamic.
This is just getting worse. Yeah.
yeah.
What I wanted to mention about Matt MC is that I actually started off being really upset because I was like, oh god, this whole thing is going to come, and her coming back and realize how much she loves him. Fuck that, I hate it. And then she put Matt, or not she, but she being the writer, and then Laurie Spielman, Nelson Spielman, put Matt next to Carmilla, and I was like, yes. And then Carmilla's at her place, and Matt has to go over to get his jacket, and I was like, yes, thank God. That's what I decided. I like this book.
Yep.
I feel like Lucy had her own story. Like she was there and she literally had her own story. And I feel like Poppy and Emilia, they would have been kind of dry. It would have been the standard, older mentor woman mentoring this younger woman, and this younger woman remind.
Oh, I know why Poppy brought her. But go on, and I'll say it at the end.
So that there was not going to be this singular dynamic, because Poppy did see Lucy as being shallow, but she also saw a zest for life.
But I think also Poppy was older, and before we got on the trip, we didn't know she had cancer, and so I think also she knew that she needed Lucy to help her to get Emilia out of her shell. So let me bring the young, vibrant one, because when I need to go to bed, you two can run around Venice together. Grandma ain't going to Venice. Grandma ain't going clubbing.
Yeah.
Although I think if Grandma did, yeah. If they didn't have that like that.
Did, then fake Harry would have never been groping up nobody, Bamsi, understand? That was so the amount of sexual assault that happened in this book.
I mean, the book started off with a sexual assault.
It's true. It's true.
It did.
It's true. To be fair, like, and I say that not because I think that this book, I think for some people that those instances would indeed, or perhaps would indeed have been triggering moments for them, depending on their experiences. But there was just something so, what's the word I'm looking for? It was just so run of the mill, because it is, and that made me angry. While also I understood, I was like, yeah, this is just how it is. This is just how it is, and it made me angry that I understood that at the same time as recognizing this was assault.
Yeah. Again, could we also mention that one singular sexual assault took place in the beginning of this book? And how many generations of women it affected? Like one singular assault.
Well, it was more than the assault. It was the victim blaming.
Yeah. And I think it was the victim blaming that really did it. And
exactly.
There's a certain Trinidadian-born international celebrity that I immediately thought of. I'm not calling names. Okay? I'm not calling names.
Is he dead one? Is one of the dead one?
The live one.
Oh, okay.
Right? And it is like, wow, if this person was a part of that family, they would have fit in very well.
I would like to tell you, when we hang up, you'll have to tell me who you're talking about, because there are too many people. There could be too many people. It can be too many people.
That's so problematic. That's so problematic that it could be too many people. Oh my goodness.
That's the problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm going to take advantage of our private chat.
Yeah, I see Angeli. I see Angeli asking and all. I will fill in how they reach up the road. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Okay, that one. Scene. Don't actually consider that person Trinidadian. So it wasn't.
But her phrasing was very key. Trinidadian born international art.
I said what I said.
Yeah, that's fair.
Was accurate.
Between the time approaching 5 o'clock and me feeling like absolute trash because my allergies are shitty, because that's what allergies do. I think we should start getting into the wrap-up end of our things, where we start our closing thoughts. I think it might be wise of us to start early with these closing thoughts, because our closing thoughts, when we read books like these and we are so passionate about and there's so much to talk about, our closing thoughts always are a lot. So who would like to go first? Because this fish I go first. I would suggest I'll go second to last, and Bree can go last because it was your pick. How about we go Talia, Seidel, Shayna, me, and Bree?
Okay. Which means I go first. My bad. Still, fuck this book and all the very best, for all the very best reasons. This book was incredibly triggering to me. I have definitely projected a lot during this. That's okay. She died in the end, so I was happy. I said what I said, girl. Yeah. I love Lucy. I love the fact that her name was Lucy, and I love her. I loved that this book was a love story and not a romance. Right? I would have liked that she turned out to not be a romantic person and that she was literally ace. I would have liked that, but then I've been spoiled by I go to see Makari Johnson by Jordan Fueko and
Ace Daddy
Dio, which I love to see. Right? And like there was representation, yes. And I felt like Lucy and Sophia had such a beautiful love story. Lucy had a fantastic character arc. I love how she grew as a person. I like that her friend kind of stopped pining over her. I like that. And I like that he had his own separate off-screen arc. I really wasn't interested in him, genuinely. And I like that he grew outside of. I like that Daddy got remarried. I'm so glad that the book ended with her meeting him, because if this didn't, I was going to pelt. I was going to find Laurie and pelt her in the streets. I was going to fight she and pelt she in the streets. If she didn't meet up with Eric, I would have pelted in the streets. So I'm glad that the book ended the way it ended. I'm glad that it celebrated all different types of love. Right? And quite frankly, yeah. I fuck this book, but I enjoyed it. Despite being incredible. I didn't want to come today. I'm here because Kiss said
been canceling too much. Okay.
We're glad you came.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, but I like this book. I would recommend it, yes. But I'd be careful of who I recommend it to. Because like I'm still at a certain stage in my growth. Right. And like I said, I can do all things through spite, which strengthens me, and sprite, which hydrates me. And I am still at that stage where it was difficult to get through. So I would be careful of who, especially if I know of their history, because certain things in this book are genuinely not an academic conversation. It wasn't for me. So I would apologize because I did let my feelings, my personal history seep in. One or two.
What?
So what?
I apologize for like we having a conversation about book, but like a person, your person.
Unapologetic.
No, it was a little much. It was a little much. It was very personal. It was very pointed. And I'll tell you all after when we come off. But anyway, I love you guys. Thank you for being here with me to help me emotionally process this book, which I didn't do much of. But I did enjoy this book. At a more healed stage.
You did it here.
Again. Yeah, it's a more healed stage. I'd like to read this book again. So she did a good job playing with my emotions.
Book club is also therapy. So we got you.
That's right. We got you.
All right. I think we go Sai next.
Yeah.
Hey, okay, I would recommend
not water.
That's hilarious. I would recommend this book. I thoroughly enjoyed the story. It's just a brilliant exploration of relationship and family and history and beliefs and motivation and Yeah, and it was just beautifully written. I felt all of the things that it wanted me to feel. At least I think that it wanted me to feel. I cringed when I was supposed to cringe, and my heart wrenched when it was supposed to, and I laughed and cried along with these characters. And I think that's for me a notice of a really well written story, of a really captivating story. Yeah, I enjoyed. This was a good read for me, a good listen for me.
Thank
Right.
you, Sheena.
Okay. So I, kind of went into a lot of my final thoughts early. That's fine. I will say this. I want to be Poppy when I'm 80 years old. So bad.
Yeah,
So bad. Like, not having, gone through all the drama and everything with my sister or anything. But I mean, just to have that outlook on life, and to be able to live my life in such a way that, I can still have an attachment to the people that are both good and bad for me, and still be happy and in love with myself and make myself happy. And that's what I wish for myself when I'm older. I said it, it'll happen. Anyways, so that being said, I did like this book a lot. I think, I kind of matched along with what Seidel was saying, in that, this made me go through a roller coaster of emotions. It made me kind of stop and think about things that I have going on in my own life, where I'm like, pressures of family, the pressures of, of friends, and the social life, and trying to balance it all. And, and I appreciate anything that makes me stop and think about myself and where I'm at in my life. And so I think, I do have, like my sister, I mentioned that I have people in my mind that I think would really enjoy this. And I think that, people that are looking for, it can be, you can read it as a lighthearted story, but I know clearly through all of our discussion, there's a lot more to it. And I think, just because it had so many layers and so much depth to it, I there's a lot of things we can talk about ad nauseum, and still have so much more to discuss. And that to me is a mark of a good book and a good story, and an author that is just incredibly talented to have put something, grounded in reality, like, together like this. My final thought is that, and this is kind of more lighthearted. This made me have a bad case of wanderlust. I mean, I've been to Italy, and
Absolutely.
I, having have, been kind of trapped in this country, and not being able to use my passport for over a year has killed me inside. And it gave me such a bad, just like case of wanderlust, and it just made me really want to leave this country to go explore somewhere. So yeah, so I'm going on a hiking camping trip next weekend to try and get a little bit of that out. We'll see how well that goes. But yeah, thank you. Thank you.
There were a couple of things that we didn't get to talk about that I did have thoughts on. One of those things is that, we had Poppy, she bought the farm that her father and her sisters and everybody had been raised on, and she had all of these other like advantages, and then Enrico bought the same building that they had their apartment in together, and all of that. And I remember reading this and thinking to myself that, yes, Emilia, etc., they obviously have their own sorts of struggles, but this is textbook privilege at work. Because do any of us have family in that situation who could have done something like this? No, some of that was it's generational wealth. It's a generational wealth situation for sure. And I do wish we kind of had a little bit of chance to talk about that some more. But these things we would never have had the same kind of narrative with this all expenses paid trip and blah 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 if this were a Brown Earth story. I think that narrative would not have been quite so easily and convincingly put together, perhaps. I mean, don't get me wrong, it would certainly be possible, right? Like, it's not like we don't have rich brown people in the world. God, we have a lot, but, you know, I think that dynamic would have been very different. Outside of that, which like the one thing that I had those thoughts on, I wanted to talk about, I do think this was a really great book. I think, Bree, you had mentioned this is not really the kind of book that you normally pick up. This isn't the book you read. I was so surprised to see that this was your pick, and now I understand why. But at the time, I was like, where is the sci-fi in this? What am I reading?
I'll send you a new list of sci-fi books later.
And excuse me, and I read about the curse, and I was like, okay, fantasy. But it wasn't a full curse. Like, all of this happened. But this, like, regardless, though, I think this was. I was really impressed with how into this book I got and how well it was written. I am a little disappointed to agree, like, that I agree that it gave me the kind of satisfaction that we didn't get from Till the Well Runs Dry, right? I think a lot of that, though, is really more about how we got that justice. On some level, we got the justice that we wanted, that we were looking for in this book, and we didn't get that in Till the Well Runs Dry. But yeah, this was a great book. I definitely recommend it. I agree that I may recommend it selectively, but it is definitely a book that I would recommend for others to read. Yeah, fuck Rosa. Glad Lucy gay. And I hope M gets laid. That's it. That's those little things was free. Take it from us.
I love that ending. I mean, in a way, to just play devil's advocate for the sort of privilege aspect, because it is obviously a contemporary book, so point valid. But I also kind of look at it as like, if this was a fantasy book, it's kind of the same as you getting swept up into the kingdom or swept up into the space station. It's like you kind of need something like that to tell a story, you know, sometimes. That's how I saw it anyway. But I think the other thing I wanted to mention too was just that I think where Rosa was like the embodiment of external validation and a life lived based on others' opinions, and Poppy is the complete opposite, where she lives life to the beat of her own drum. She is self-actualized. She doesn't care what other people think. I think by the end of the story, then Emilia becomes sort of the middle ground. And so she's able to take the best of both worlds. She can still be a part of her family, but I'm doing my shit from Italy, you know? I'm going to go marry the avocado lawyer, and I'm going to do my own thing, you know? I'll still come home, but I'm doing my own thing. And so I think we got this beautiful middle ground that shows us you can have both, but it takes hard work, and it takes getting out from underneath, you know, the boot of this, what do we call it? Family duty. You know, there's a limit to how much you can give. You can't pour out of an empty cup. That being said, the book does have the itinerary. So for the Wanderlust 2022, 2023, when book club goes to Italy.
Yes!
But I am about this life, y'all. I'm about this life. I think
We'll talk. But at the end of the day, so like you said, this is not the normal book that I pick. I'm kind of glad I stepped out of my comfort zone. I think book club's been doing that a lot for us. But we got a feel-good story. We got a story that touched us in a lot of ways. And not just in the, what's the word? Like cliche ways. Because like when we saw the friend romance, I was like, oh God, if this is what happens, this is not going to be good. But she turned it around and she made it realistic that, like you said, maybe she just doesn't like the boy. How many times have we bent over backwards for a guy we don't even like because we think that's what we're supposed to do? So I think she was so realistic in this growth of Emilia, because while Emilia did a lot of this growth in her 30s, I think a lot of us did this growth in our 20s. So I could see myself in Emilia. I could see myself in Lucy. I could see myself in Poppy. Fuck Rosa. I could see myself in a lot of these characters. And so it was touching. It was a touching, surprising book. I appreciate it in a lot of ways. And again, like I said, or like everybody has said, I would also recommend this to people who I think would enjoy it. And that's it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, if you're watching this today, currently, now, at the present, or in the future, consider joining us in 2 weeks from today. So that would be, consider joining us on not the 3rd of October, but the 10th. Consider joining us on the 10th of October for Witches Steeped in Gold. We've been waiting, or at least I've been, this is one of my picks. I'm waiting very long to read this because it came out, I think, last month or the month before or something. It came out like several weeks ago, but we ended up having to postpone a couple times. We didn't read it just after it came out, like I had intended. But I'm excited to finally get to it now, which is Steeped in Gold, which is a fantasy novel by Shannon Smart. Shannon. Yeah, it's Shannon Smart. Okay, I got that right. At least I think I'm pronouncing it correctly when I say Shannon Smart. Yeah, look out for that, folks. In the meantime, love, peace, hair, grease. Bye.